For years, they operated in shadows, black masks, burning cities, coordinated violence. We knew someone was paying for it. The buses didn't rent themselves. The weapons didn't appear from thin air. But every time we asked who was writing the checks, they called us conspiracy theorists. Well, today, President Trump officially signed an executive order that changes everything. Antifa is now officially designated a terrorist organization. That's not even the biggest news. Investigators just traced $80 million from one source straight into the terror pipeline. The money trail is now officially exposed. Oh, yes. This video and the report that we have uncovered is going to serve as the blueprint for the RICO charges. The names are documented, and Stephen Miller promised they're coming after every last one of them. So don't go anywhere. Now, let me ask you something. If you've built up $100,000 or more in investments, do you really want it all riding on the stock market? Think about it. Banks, billionaires, even entire countries loading up on physical gold and silver. Why? Because when markets swing, real assets hold their value. That's why I want to tell you about Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to own investment-grade gold and silver, the same kind the big players are buying, and you can actually hold it in your hand or put it safely in your retirement account. You've worked hard to build your wealth. Isn't it time you protected it? Noble Gold is family-owned, trusted by thousands, and ranked #1 in gold IRAs 4 years in a row. Their precious metal specialists are standing by to answer your questions, to walk you through every step. Simple, safe, easy. Visit nextnewsgold.com today. That's nextnewsgold.com. It's time to protect what you have built. It's linked down below, or the number on the screen, 877-646-5347. Give them a call. Tell them Gary Franchi sent you. So yesterday we reported on the executive order President Trump signed, Antifa designated as a terrorist organization. It's time to arrest their leaders, says Liz Churchill. George and Alex Soros. So the question is, where's the money coming from? We've uncovered the paper trail. Stephen Miller says we will dismantle Antifa. This is not fringe anymore. Tape after tape. Federal workers, bureaucrats, educators, professors, nurses, people celebrating and cheering the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There is a domestic terrorist movement growing in the country.
Where the left calls people enemies of the Republic, calls them fascists, says they're Nazis, says they're evil, says they have to be removed, and then prints their addresses. What do you think they're trying to do? They are trying to inspire someone to murder them. That is their objective. That is their intent. And when you see online, Sean, as we've seen for the last few days, tape after tape after tape of federal workers, bureaucrats, staffers in the Pentagon, educators, professors, healthcare workers, nurses, celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. These are radicalized people. There is a domestic terrorism movement in this country. And let me tell you something I'd not share with anybody, but the last message that Charlie Kirk gave to me before he joined his creator in heaven was he said that we have to dismantle and take on the radical left organizations in this country that are fomenting violence. That was the last message that he sent me before that assassin stole him from all of us. And we are going to do that under President Trump's leadership. I don't care how. It could be a RICO charge, a conspiracy charge, conspiracy against the United States, insurrection, but we are going to do what it takes to dismantle the organizations and the entities that are fomenting riots, that are doxing, that are trying to inspire terrorism, and that are committing acts of wanton violence. It has to stop. And my message is to all of the domestic terrorists in this country spreading this evil hate: you want us to live in fear? We will not live in fear, but you will live in exile. Where the left...
Stephen Miller on fire. This was September 15th. Stephen Miller on the left-wing NGOs that organize violence in this country. He says somebody's paying for all of this. This is in the Oval Office with President Trump.
Yes, so I believe what you're referring to is there are these nonprofit entities that organize, as the president mentioned, attacks on ICE officers, attacks on Border Patrol agents, organized doxing campaigns, which are a violation of federal law, They break off cement and they bring into riots. They have organized drop points for weapons, organized drop points for gas masks, organized drop points for all the materials necessary to launch a riot. And of course, you saw that during the Black Lives Matter riots as well, too. So there's this whole network of organizations. And I think the key point the president's been making is somebody is paying for all of this. This is not happening for free. And so under the president's direction, the attorney general is going to find out who is paying for it, and they will now be criminally liable for paying for violence.
So who is paying for it? Oh, we've found out. Stephen Miller says the Democrat Party is an institution at every level. Its judges, lawyers, community activists, and politicians exist to serve these criminal thugs. It's a simple choice. You either side with civilization or with anarchy and violence. Stephen Miller with J.D. Vance during the Charlie Kirk show vows to destroy left-wing terror groups. So where's the money coming from? Shall we? Shall we dive into this? Are you ready? Trump has officially designated Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, and now Soros' $80 million empire funding terror groups is in the crosshairs. The RICO charges are coming. Let's dive in to the bombshell findings. Section 1 of Trump's order is clear. Antifa is a militarist, anarchist enterprise plotting to the overthrow of the U.S. government, coordinated riots, doxing, ICE attacks. This is not activism. It is domestic terrorism, and Soros is bankrolling their partners. Here is the executive order that was signed by President Trump on your screen. Section 1 and Section 2. We're going to dive deeper. Now, this is what I found. Thanks to the Media Research Center, who first brought my attention to this. I dug deeper, found the actual report, broke it down into pieces so that you can understand it. The Capital Research Center, their new report reveals Soros Open Society foundations have funneled over $80 million since 2016 into groups that train militants, glorify Hamas's October 7th massacre, and sponsor domestic sabotage. This is page 1 of the exclusive Soros Open Society gave terrorist and pro-terrorist groups over $80 million by Ryan Morrow, investigative reporter for Capital Research Center. Category 1 of the report, $23 million to U.S. groups that literally meet the FBI's definition of domestic terrorists. These are not nonprofits. These are insurrection training camps. Now, this investigation separates Open Society's finding of extremist groups into 3 categories. Guarantees that directly assist domestic terrorism and criminality on U.S. soil. Open Society awarded at least $23 million to 7 groups that engage in or materially assist violence, property destruction, economic sabotage, harassment, and other criminality that meets the FBI's definition. Guarantees that have endorsed terrorist attacks like those on October 7th, 2023, and or are directly linked to foreign terrorist groups and or their known front groups. Open Society has provided at least $50 million to 41 such groups. Unlike groups in the first category, these organizations do not openly encourage crimes to be committed in America. Point 3. Guarantees that qualify as associates of terrorist groups or pro-terrorism groups. Open Society has provided at least $9 million to 5 such nonprofits. These groups do not openly support terrorism and may condemn attacks like those on October 7th, but they continue to provide significant material assistance to pro-terrorism or terrorism-linked groups or activists. Here's an example. The Center for Third World Organizing, funded by Soros, bragged about throwing down during the 2020 riots. Their partner, the Ruckus Society, trained activists in property destruction and sabotage, direct lines to Antifa tactics. Soros also bankrolled the Sunrise Movement, which endorsed Stop Cop City. Remember that? The Antifa-linked anarchists in Atlanta facing 40-plus domestic terrorism charges and 60 racketeering indictments. These are Trump's new RICO targets. Stop Cop City terrorists attacked cops with Molotovs, fireworks, and lasers, torched equipment, and even mocked 9/11 with a toilet memorial. And Soros money was there via Sunrise and their bail fund. Category 2, Soros gave $50.5 million to groups tied to foreign terrorists like Hamas and the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. Yes, U.S. tax-exempt funds flowing to entities now sanctioned by the State Department. Now sanctioned. Case in point, Soros spent $2.3 million to Al-Haq, a PFLP front group just sanctioned by the U.S. in September of 2025 for aiding the ICC's illegitimate targeting of Israel. Soros dollars are now officially tied to a U.S. designated terror front. Category 3, another $9.3 million went to associates of terrorist groups, entities that may pretend to condemn Hamas but still funnel material support, training, and propaganda to terror-linked activists. Category 3. The Movement for Black Lives, a Soros darling, received $18 million, co-authored a toolkit glorifying Hamas October 7 paragliders, complete with guides on false IDs, blockades, and economic disruption. Here are the receipts, folks. $18 million to Movement for Black Lives, right there on your screen. I never heard about this one, did you? Dream Defenders? They got $1.85 million from Soros. Co-authored the same Hamas glorifying toolkit. Their guide literally showcases an image of a paraglider committing the October 7th massacre with the slogan, Black Liberation for Palestinian Freedom. Oh, go find you want to read this in detail? Here are the receipts. It's all in the thread. If you're following us on X, you've already seen this. The receipts are right there. Another Soros guarantee, Grassroots Global Justice Alliance, which openly endorsed the October 7th Hamas attacks they call the U.S. Turtle Island and demand the abolition of America itself, and Soros gave them $150,000. Fiscal sponsors were used to launder the money. Groups like the Tides Foundation, Neo Philanthropy, and Common Council acted as financial umbrellas, shielding Soros-backed extremists from scrutiny. Classic dark money deception. Fiscal sponsors shielding pro-terrorism groups. These 11 groups have acted in this capacity for Open Society Foundation pro-terrorism guarantees at least once since 2016. Allied Media Project, Center for Third World Organizing, Citizen Engagement Lab Education Fund, Common Council Foundation, Empowerment Works, Highlander Research and Education Center, Neo Philanthropy. And you can see the subgroups underneath. These fiscal sponsors let unregistered groups avoid IRS scrutiny, keeping leadership revenue and spending secret. Translation, Soros built a financial pipeline for terrorism under the cover of charity law. Fiscal sponsors shielding pro-terrorism groups. Trump's Executive Order Section 2 empowers agencies to investigate, disrupt, and dismantle any illegal operations involving Antifa and those who fund it. That includes Soros-backed fronts. My friends, the fuse has officially been lit. The report notes that under IRS law, nonprofits engage in criminal activity lose tax-exempt status. Soros guarantees openly admit to planning crimes like sabotage, blockades, and assaults. They should have been stripped years ago. But there's a new sheriff in town, folks. This is not philanthropy. It's complicity. Soros has built a shadow empire funding groups that destabilize the U.S., fuel riots, glorify foreign terrorists, and funnel millions to sanctioned entities. Trump has promised RICO charges for George Soros, and with this report in hand, federal investigators now have the blueprint. $80 million in material support for terrorism laundered through nonprofits. Imagine the optics. Soros hauled into court under RICO. His guarantees losing tax-exempt status, his fiscal sponsors dragged before Congress, the house of cards collapses. For decades, Soros operated in the shadows, hiding behind his open society branding. And now the mask is off. His empire is a funding arm for terror, foreign and domestic. This is not partisan rhetoric. It's documented fact from Soros' own selectively published grant list, combined with open source evidence of guarantees praising, aiding, and abetting terrorists. And these are not fringe organizations. They're entrenched in universities, protest movements, and progressive coalitions across America. Soros money radicalized an entire generation. Look at the money trail. Look at the money trail. 300,000, 150,000, 430,000, 600,000, 500,000, 300,000, 25,000, 370,000. All going to these groups. Trump's Antifa designation is the first domino. With RICO, investigators can trace the money, subpoena the sponsors, dismantle the Soros network piece by piece. The walls are closing in. The storm has arrived. Trump designates Antifa a domestic terror group. Soros exposed for $80 million in terror funding. RICO is next. America is finally fighting back. Follow us for the updates. The party is over, George. It is over. General Flynn revealed that George Soros allegedly funneled $2.5 billion into the 2020 election via a network of NGOs and for-profit organizations circumventing election laws, emphasizing $1 from a foreign nation is a felony.
Departments like the department, again, you're like the expert on it, but Arabella Advisors created a structure of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and for-profit organizations, and they built it so seamless, and they use organizations like USAID. They use departments like the Department of State underneath the Obama administration and clearly underneath the Biden administration. But even during the Trump administration, while Trump was getting beat up about Russiagate, you know, he was depending on people around him to like, hey, you know, do your job, right? I can tell you the State Department under guys like Mike Pompeo did nothing. So he was also the CIA director for a year. So I just throw that bombshell out there. But what we're talking about is Soros is trying to globalize the world. Soros, in this briefing that I gave to President Trump a couple of years ago, we were able to prove how Soros, through this structured organization, spent $2.5 billion on our 2020 election. Okay, on our 2020 election. And I'll talk about that here in 1 second. So we actually were able to prove the flow, okay, the flow of money. Now, what they do is they do it through, again, this sort of seamless, you know, operation where it looks like the money's coming from U.S. entities. Right. Because so I just said 2.5 billion. $1 that comes from a foreign nation, right? $1 that comes from a foreign nation is a felony. $1. All right. So we're talking about $2.5 billion that George Soros basically orchestrated to come into the 2020 election. Again, you're like the.
So it's all coming down, folks. Here's what Stephen Miller said at Charlie Kirk's memorial.
City raised up. Erica stands on the shoulders of thousands of years of warriors, of women who raised up families, raised up city, raised up industry, raised up civilization, who pulled us out of the caves and the darkness into the light. The light will defeat the dark. We will prevail over the forces of wickedness and evil. They cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in all of us. Because we stand for what is good, what is virtuous, what is noble. And to those trying to incite violence against us, those trying to foment hatred against us, what do you have? You have nothing. You are nothing. You are wickedness, you are jealousy, you are envy, you are hatred. You are nothing. You can build nothing. You can produce nothing. You can create nothing. We are the ones who build. We are the ones who create. We are the ones who lift up humanity. You thought you could kill Charlie Kirk? You have made him immortal. You have immortalized Charlie Kirk. And now millions will carry on his legacy. Eric.
If you got value from this report, tap subscribe. My final thought is next. So this is what should terrify every American. See, they've been doing this for years. $80 million funneled through charitable foundations into terror training camps. While you were working, paying taxes, and following the law, Soros was bankrolling groups that taught militants how to firebomb police stations and overthrow the government. The Capital Research Center mapped every penny. Tides Foundation, Neo-Philanthropy. They laundered terror money through nonprofit umbrellas. Now Trump's executive order unleashes RICO prosecutions on the entire network. Stephen Miller warned them at Charlie Kirk's memorial. You cannot imagine what you have awakened. The days of operating in the shadows are over. The money trail is exposed, the fiscal sponsors are named, and the federal hammer is about to drop. So here is my question. Should George Soros face RICO charges for funding domestic terrorism? Yes or no? Hit the comments and grab your American badass gear from our merch shop and let them know whose side you are on.